Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha. Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, is this good? Okay. Haribol. So I've been given this very nice opportunity to speak on Bhagavad Gita. We'll be covering chapter 1, verse 39. First, we'll begin with some invocation prayers. So we'll do that now. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Svaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so keeps rolling away. Okay. So we'll go over the verse. We don't have it up. Usually in the mornings we have it on the board so people can join in You can put it up on your you can put it up on your phones and try to join in. The verse is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 39. Chapter 1, verse 39. Just find the verse myself. Okay. So, Kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha dharminashte kulang kritsnam adharma bhibhavatyata. Okay. So Mohan Prabhu, you can recite with me? Yeah? Okay. Kulakshaye pranashyanti Kulakshaye pranashyanti Kula dharma sanatanaha Kula dharma sanatanaha dharminashte kulang kritsnam dharminashte kulang kritsnam adharma bhibhavatyata adharma bhibhavatyata kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha dharminashte kulang kritsnam adharma bhibhavatyata. Would anyone like to recite? Kulakshaye pranashyanti Kula dharma sanatanaha dharminashte kulang kritsnam adharma bhibhavatyuta. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. So, word for word translation. Kulakshaye, in destroying the family. Pranashyanti, become vanquished. Kula dharmaha, the family traditions. Sanatanaha, eternal. Dharme, religion. Nashte, being destroyed. Kulam, family. Kritsnam, whole. Adharmaha, irreligion. Abhibhavati, transforms. Uta, it is said. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. So please repeat. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. One more time. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. Purport. In the system of the Varnashram institution, there are many principles of religious traditions to help members of the family grow properly and attain spiritual values. The elder members are responsible for such purifying processes in the family, beginning from birth to death. But on the death of the elder members, such family traditions of purification may stop, and the remaining younger family members may develop irreligious habits and thereby lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Therefore, for no purpose should the elder members of the family be slain. Kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulang kritsnam adharma bhibhavatyuta. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. So now I will try my best to give some commentary on this verse. I'm inexperienced and unqualified, therefore I pray for all the devotees and persons here for their blessings, in hopes that I may say something of use, something that is relevant. And ultimately, this is just for my purification. So please be kind upon me if I speak anything that is not valid or unbona fide. But I pray for your blessings. Hare Krishna. So I had a few notes in preparation. So I think first I'll just give a little chapter summary to give some context of the verse. So with the destruction of the dynasty. So at this point, so the chapter is entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra. So Lord Krishna and Arjuna, they are accompanied. Actually, first let me just ask, who here's read Bhagavad Gita? You, Prabhu, have you read Bhagavad Gita? Oh, then you must be expert on this then. And you, Mataji's read? Yeah? Okay. So yeah, Krishna and Arjuna, they're together on the battlefield, and Arjuna has seen there's a great battle to take place, the Battle of Kurukshetra. This happened 5,000 years ago. And Arjuna, Lord Krishna is actually acting as Arjuna. Arjuna is part of the battle, and Lord Krishna is acting as Arjuna's charioteer. And he asks Krishna to take him out into the midst of the battlefield so he can see who's present on the opposing side. And when Arjuna finds on the opposing side, because of the circumstances, how it is. You can read all about this in the Mahabharata. It's quite complex. I can't give a very great description, but because of the circumstances, Arjuna saw his family members, his teachers, his elders, all respectable and worshipable persons. Yeah, she describes like such persons are worshipable, all like respectable persons in one's life. They're all on the other side on the opposing side of the battlefield, ready to fight and kill him, his own family members. And when he sees this, he just naturally, as anyone would. I mean, Arjuna was a great personality, very, very well composed, intelligent, very well skilled, very great personality. But even when he saw all his family members on the opposing side, he just lost it. He just had a mental breakdown, basically. He started quivering, tears started dwelling in his eyes, and his weapon, his bow, Gandiva, he was given to him by the demigods. He just dropped it. He just lost all the will to fight. And then, when we lose the will to do something, we try to, and when someone's asked us to do something, we try to come up with different excuses why we shouldn't do it. And of course, the reasons that Arjuna does give are valid, and he does give valid reasons. And later on, Krishna does say, while you're speaking learned words. That's in the earlier part of chapter 2. Excuse me. So yeah, Arjuna, he's giving a reason. Because it's mainly the elders and all the family members on the opposing side, on the side of the Kauravas or the Kurus, naturally, if they're killed, and it's elder members of a family that maintain religious traditions generally, at least in some cultures or older cultures, maybe not so much now in the Western world, but it's like that. You find in some families it'll be like that. But yeah, generally, elder members of the family, they maintain religious and spiritual values for the later generations to then carry on. So Arjuna he's trying to find. So he's finding a reason why not to fight. And one reason he gives is that we shouldn't kill the elder members of the family, because then in that family they won't have any elders to instruct them, and then they'll lose. As it says, yeah, but and he describes, and if they lose spiritual values, Arjuna cites out what the result of that would be, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. And as Prabhupada says in the purport, they lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Because ultimately, the goal of human life is this, spiritual salvation. In other forms of life, it is covered in the Bhagavad Gita that we're not this body, that we're actually just the spirit soul. It's not so much that we have a soul, but we are the soul, and this body is just like an outer covering. Just like how I don't address you as black coat and nice black trousers. I'll address you by your name. And similarly, you won't address me as brown hoodie or white dhoti. You'll address me by my name. Because so similarly, it's just an outer covering. So similarly, we're not this body. So this is a very, very important point discussed in Bhagavad Gita, and is the first, I think Srila Prabhupada says, is the first step in understanding and starting spiritual life, that we're not this body. So that's covered. It's kind of heavy to accept at the beginning, but it's also quite simple as well. Like the analogy I just gave of like how we're not these clothes, you can just see me just like, this is me, this isn't me. So similarly, this body, it's not actually me. It's actually an individual soul. Eternally, and it's also established we're also all eternally part and parcel of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, what was the point I was making before? Destruction, spiritual salvation, yes. So, yeah, because in other forms of life, for example, a dog cannot chant Hare Krishna. A dog cannot worship God or even be aware that God exists. A plant cannot be aware that God exists or even question its existence or question God or anything. They just, whatever form of life one is in, so this is established reincarnation for this point to work. One must understand. So yeah, this is a good point. We need to know that we're not this body, and we need to be aware of like karma and reincarnation in order for higher concepts, for us to reach higher concepts. So it all starts with just this one understanding, and that's more highly stressed in the second chapter. Yeah. This is the thing with Bhagavad Gita. When you're reading one part, you kind of have to refer to other parts, and you can kind of churn out more points and discussion points. It's nice like that. So yeah. So the ultimate goal of when you obtain this human form of life, this human birth, the ultimate goal then is to attain spiritual salvation, because in other forms of life, the point is that in the other forms of life, one cannot question, what am I, is there God, what is God, what's my relationship with God, what's the purpose of life. In the human form of life, we can do that though. It's said in the Shastras, in the scriptures, that there are 8,400,000 different forms of life within this universe, and of the 400,000 of those are different varieties of human form of life, and the other 8 million are all different kinds of forms, like animal, insect, bird, beast, aquatic, bacteria, plant life, etc. All other forms of life. So actually, this human form of life is quite a rare chance, and the way how the reincarnation system it works, one like loops around and then comes to the point of human birth again. Like you cycle through all different as reactions of sinful activities in human life. You get the reactions are births and different forms of life, so you have to cycle for there's 8 million different forms of life you have to cycle through in order to get to the human form of life again. And so it's a very, very, very rare chance. But unfortunately, because of the age we're in, this age of Kali, people are not so much interested in spiritual life. People are just interested in just more mundane things. And it's not even necessarily people's fault. That's all that they're surrounded by. So it's a very unfortunate situation. People don't know better. They don't know to question better, but because they're surrounded by so many mundane things. But when one lives more simply, less materially complicated, less distractions, less things like this. Naturally, human beings, they question higher things. It is actually, if one is in a human form of life, one has the capacity. In all forms of life, there's intelligence. But in some forms of life, it's kind of suppressed or covered a bit more. Like there's intelligence in plant life, there's intelligence in animal life, there's intelligence in all forms of life. And in the human form of life, intelligence is the least like covered. It's the most open, and one can actually question, has the capacity of to question what is myself, what am I, what is God, etc. All these big questions, and naturally people will question this, and you'll find I've heard from different documentaries, like if you look into different like ancient civilizations, you'll find they had like some belief of higher beings, some kind of like belief like that. And naturally, that's because they led much more simpler lives, less complicated, less mundane lives, more simple. It's like Prabhupada pushes this point, not just this point, but this lifestyle, this ideal of simple living, high thinking. But when you live like more complex, so then simple living, high thinking, therefore complicated living, low thinking. Like that. So so like that. But yeah, so it is human, it is the natural inclination, or maybe not inclination, desire, push, can't find the word, but that kind of, hopefully I'm delivering the meaning. It's a natural inclination for humans to question higher things. And it is ultimately, we're not of this world. This is one point. We actually come from it's described in Brahma Samhita and Bhagavad Gita as well, that there is a higher spiritual nature. I think there's one verse. I can't remember the verse at the moment, but yeah, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter, I also can't remember. Please forgive my faulty memory. But yeah, Krishna says beyond this material nature, this material world, there's a higher spiritual nature, which is transcendental and eternal and everlasting, and that's described in the Brahma Samhita as well. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa. Actually, that verse is more of a description of the spiritual world. Anyway, so that's actually where we come from, and that's our goal. That's ultimately our goal, to go back to the spiritual world, because that's actually where we come from. And ultimately, that's actually where we can be more happy, because in this material world, the spiritual world is described as Vaikuntha. Kunta means anxiety. Vaikuntha means no anxiety. So the spiritual world is Vaikuntha, no anxieties. The material world is Kunta, full of anxieties. So like that. Well, we ultimately don't belong to this material world. We're not of the nature of this world. We belong to the spiritual world. And ultimately, that's our goal, to return back, going back to Godhead, as Prabhupada says, back to Godhead. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the goal of human life is spiritual realization, self-realization, to question and to find out, and to what am I, who am I, and ultimately to live in such a way that facilitates and promotes this thinking, and just you'll see in this Krishna consciousness movement, it's not just like philosophy, it's not just a religion, it's a whole culture. It's actually a whole culture, which and every aspect of this culture, it's very specific, it's quite detailed. Every aspect of this culture promotes spiritual thinking and questioning, what am I, and gives and the culture is based on this literature, this transcendental literature, shastra, scripture, which holds all the answers. Bhagavad Gita is just so sublime; it holds all the answers to. If one just understands all of Bhagavad Gita, one can live perfectly in human life. If everyone just followed, so Prabhupada says in the, so if everyone just followed Bhagavad Gita, the whole society would be so much more peaceful. So much, it's not just a book. There's or just philosophy or anything. It promotes a culture and a way of thinking, a way of living for everyone. And if everyone follows this, lives like this, then the whole world can be happy and more peaceful. I think generally, I think any common sane man can agree that the world is not in a good condition at the moment. At least that's my humble opinion. I don't think the world is in a great condition. Therefore, those who receive start to get a taste or a little bit of hearing about this knowledge. They should try to share it, try to propagate it, and try to understand it thoroughly themselves. Firstly, you understand it yourself, and then you can start to give it to others. But so it's important for people to hear this, to hear about this philosophy, to hear about this Krishna consciousness movement, what our mission is. And our mission, ultimately, in one sense, is to save the world. We're trying to help the world by seemingly just foolish means. Like you see us, we go out on the streets, and what do? We just sing and dance. It doesn't look like we're doing much. It just looks like we're just either being a nuisance or just trying to have a good time. But actually, this is the most sublime method of bringing peace about the world. Sounds mad, but it is. It's just so. What are we doing? We're just dancing, chanting, and if you see, we're blissful on the streets. We're quite happy doing that. But by this means, we can actually become peaceful, because if everyone's united, this is one theory. If everyone is united in one purpose, with one goal, all with one goal in mind, and at the same time, everyone can still be in their own individual, how can there be any argument, any disputes, how can there not be peace if everyone has the same ideal, the same goal in mind? So if we're all just, and chanting Hare Krishna is actually the highest means of spiritual realization, because it awakens a dormant consciousness within us. Ultimately, our eternal, our real position, our real nature, our eternal transcendental nature, our spiritual nature, is that we're servants of God, that we love God, Krishna. And by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, this Maha Mantra, this great mantra for deliverance, by chanting this, it reawakens that spirit. Because at the moment it's covered. And we're in forgetfulness of this. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranatai ki jai. So at the moment we're covered by material consciousness, by a material way of thinking. By chanting Hare Krishna, by invoking the holy name of the Lord, because the Lord's none different from his holy name, so by chanting his name, he's personally present, and by his personal presence we become purified, and we get lifted up from out of mundane thinking, and we're able to, and after some time, after the effect of this chanting, especially when heard, as Prabhupada says, especially when heard from a pure devotee of the Lord, it carries so great power, great potency. Shakti is the Sanskrit word, potency, Shakti. And it is able to awaken in us this original blissful consciousness that I am a servant of God, and it enables us to reawaken our love for God, because actually that's our original transcendental, eternal position. So like that. So simply by this chanting, it's so simple. The one thing I find that's just so sublime about it is that anyone can do it. Do you have a tongue? Do you have a tongue?
Yes.
Do you have ears?
Yes.
Do you have a voice?
Yes.
Then you can chant Hare Krishna. And generally, this is just from the last time I checked, generally most people have ears, tongue, and a voice, and they can, from the last time I checked. So basically, anyone can chant this. Anyone can recite the holy names like this of Krishna. So anyone can take part and attain this glorious result. It's very sublime position. So like this, I hope I've given some kind of description there of this Harinam Sankirtan movement, this this movement of congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So hopefully I've given some idea of what the goal is in mind and and how it's actually the highest thing, the best thing to do. So that's like the highest thing to do, the best thing to do, simplest thing to do. It's to attain spiritual salvation, as Prabhupada says in the purport. So that's the goal. So the goal of human life is spiritual salvation. So on to the verse on the purport. So therefore, it is important for this to be maintained, and elder family members and whatnot, they should. And this is one point I wanted to make. It's good if members of a family maintain this and teach the younger generations, and also younger generations should also try to inquire as much as they can from elders, from those who are seniors, as much as possible. Try to get as much as you can from them. It's basically try to give as much as you can and try to get as much as you can. And in this way, everyone can cultivate spiritual knowledge. Everyone can advance in spiritual life, because this is the goal. This is the goal of human life, is to awaken the dormant God consciousness that is eternally within us. It's just because we're in this material world and we're affected by the material energy of the Lord, Maya, illusion. This become by that influence and the influence of this material world. This dormant consciousness, this love of God, becomes twisted, and then that love of God becomes love for material enjoyment, and that love turns to lust. Actually, Prabhupada kind of defines the difference between love and lust. This may be difficult for some people to hear, but lust is when you want something. I guess actually it's not too difficult, I guess. Simply put, lust is when you desire something very greatly, something for yourself. You're just looking for your own benefit, for your own enjoyment. Love is when you're seeking others' enjoyment, others' happiness, others' pleasure, like that. So this is the difference. If you really love someone, you want to make sure that they're happy, that they're satisfied, that they're peaceful, like that. But if you're only interested in yourself, then that's lust. Like that. So Prabhupada defines love and lust in this way. So we're trying to turn our lust back into love. That's a nice mantra. Let's turn our lust back into love. So it's important that this is maintained. So this can be cultivated, and this can be maintained within families. It's a nice program. Families, they could just unite, and it also this how I said earlier. Glad I brought that point up. Is how anyone can engage. So you'll see in our Sankirtan parties, and it's like there's old people, there's young people, there's people that have been doing it for years, and then there's people like myself who have just been doing it recently, who are quite young and of different cultures. So anyone can engage. So old and young. So like this, elder family members maintain these traditions and maintain these practices. They can teach the younger generation, and the younger generation can inquire from, and they can engage together like this. So it's very nice. And they can, in one's home, one can just have kirtan, just chant, and have discussion on the books, on the philosophy, on hearing about the Lord, and his qualities, his pastimes. Because by hearing about, this is one very key thing, hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting about the glories of the Lord. So this whole process, it all begins by hearing. And ultimately we hear from those who are already experienced and who know about these things. That would be elder members of family. Because the first gurus, the first spiritual teachers in our lives are our parents and grandparents as well. That can be there. Also, not strictly, because one can have parents who can be born in a family that isn't religious or that isn't pious or like interested in these things, but can come into contact in some other way. But either way, the process is by hearing from someone who's senior in the subject matter. You know, just like, say if I wanted to get into carpentry, I'd have to approach someone. I can't just speculate and just guess how do you do carpentry and just start just getting bits of wood and just hitting nails into it. Oh, that's carpentry. No, I don't think that's carpentry. I have to approach someone who's qualified. Even if someone who's like not very qualified, they're more qualified than me. So I should try to approach and learn from. You need to learn from those who are experienced, those who have the knowledge. So just within the context of this verse, yeah, from the elder family members. So it's important for that to be maintained because the goal is spiritual salvation in human life. So, therefore, and Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, therefore for no purpose should the elder members of the family be slain. Slain, it's a bit interesting. Am I going to slay my grandparents or something? No. But yeah, that's within the context of this. Of course, yeah, we should try to protect elder family members because they maintain this knowledge and then they keep it and they pass it on. But within the context of the verse, it's like Arjuna, he's about to slay his own family members on the other side. And that does seem a bit contradictory. Prabhupada says, for no purpose should the elder family members be slain. That's just, Prabhupada's just, there he's just giving the general point. Later on, it is explained that Krishna explains to Arjuna that actually do this as your duty. For not doing your duty, that's very dishonorable. And for someone like you, who's a kshatriya, a great warrior, dishonor is the worst thing, worse than death. For a kshatriya, for a great warrior like yourself. So you should enact your duty, your dharma, your duty, your constitutional duty. That's according to your nature, you should carry that out. And that's explained more later on. I do not have the ability to explain that quite right now, but so yeah, like that. So yeah. So it's important to I guess one point that can be derived from that point that Prabhupada makes is that we should protect family members, and ultimately we should protect spiritual thinking and high thinking. We should maintain that. I think that's a good point. Let me see if there were any other points that I made. I might have forgotten. Oh yeah. Okay, here's a nice point. So Arjuna specifically says the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. And one point I wrote down was that what happens if there is no What happens if there are no spiritual values in a family? If there's no religion like that, because by development of irreligious habits, of impious habits, of sinful activities, when these habits arise, then at one point it becomes very difficult to advance in human life, in spiritual life. It becomes very difficult, and one will go down on such a path. Not only that, does not lead to this, but leads away from spiritual life, but also it just leads to a path that is not as satisfying, or that won't be as fulfilling. Actually, if you have some spiritual element in your life, spirituality, you will be more satisfied. And actually, this is the key, because we're very lustful, we're very desirous of material things and material things, like admiration, honor, or a new phone, new car, etc. So many things. Because we want the things, if we try to stop going after those things, how are we going to be happy? You'll just have to go back to that. So then you can fill that gap with spirituality, with spiritual life. We're trying to become by meditating upon the Supreme Lord, upon Krishna, ultimately. What does that mean, meditation? Meditation's generally the concept is that, meditation, you'll just sit like this and say Om a couple times or something like that. But meditation really just means contemplation, just thinking heavily on something or just a lot on something. To meditate upon something means to just think of that. I guess that's one way you could translate Krishna consciousness. It's just meditation on Krishna. We're being conscious of Krishna. And that's actually a nice definition of Krishna consciousness. It's just being conscious of Krishna, just thinking of Krishna. It's quite simple. And so yeah, one way you can fill out that hole, one suggestion of that gap. Of course, you don't just immediately stop going after material enjoyment and immediately go to Krishna. Of course, no, you need a transition. But just you can try to develop some taste. First, you need to develop taste. What's the word? We covered this. Shraddha Prema. What was? It was Raja or something. Huh? Taste. What was the Ruchi? That's it. Ruchi. Taste. So we need to develop some kind of taste. Of course, that's in a different context, but that's one word for taste. Yeah, ruchi. We need to develop some taste, and one can develop that by hearing about the pastimes of the Lord. And one way that's actually quite good at this, if you have any children, there's one series called Little Krishna. Have you heard of this, Little Krishna? Prabhu, have you heard of Little Krishna? No? Okay. It's this little animated series that just depicts Lord Krishna's life in Vrindavan when he was here 5,000 years ago, and it depicts the different events that and miracles that he performed, and nice instances that he underwent, and with his life in Vrindavan that happened. This is based upon. And the events are based on scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam. The events are recorded in there, or the Bhagavad Puran that's recorded there, recorded, not recounted. Anyway, so it's based on Shastra, it's based on scripture, so it's authorized. Part of my childhood, I used to watch that quite a bit. And that helped me to just develop some taste for hearing about Krishna, for thinking about Krishna. And later in life, I read Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is a summary study of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. And it's a very, very nice book. It's a very nice scripture, because it's just the activities and the accounts and pastimes of Lord Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, it's just so blissful. It's just so nice to hear about Krishna. The name Krishna means all attractive. The name Rama means source of all pleasure, or reservoir of all bliss, or source of all pleasure, like that. So just by hearing about Krishna, when you just get absorbed in hearing and talking about Krishna, you don't think about anything else. And if you think about something else, it's I don't need to do that. I'm satisfied with just thinking about Krishna. So in this way, and then that way you can start to realize, I'm happy with just by hearing about Krishna. It's nice to hear about Krishna, and the taste can then develop, and then one can. Of course, we may not always want to hear more, because if we're in material consciousness, we don't want Krishna. If we're in Krishna consciousness, we don't want material enjoyment. It goes like that. So then we kind of have to force or push ourselves, or have people around us that can help us to push ourselves to continue to hear about Krishna. But yeah, if you just keep trying to hear about Krishna, then you can develop some taste. And in this way, I think this is just a very simple, very nice method of getting some taste for spiritual life. Just hear about Krishna, because he's so sweet, especially his Vrindavan activities, pastimes, or lila, as the word is, pastimes, because they're just so simple and sweet, and they're so pleasing to the heart. Of course, it may not suit one's nature, that just suits my nature, my taste. But there's many different activities. If one is, say, more into action and heroic activities, Krishna performs heroic activities. There are accounts of him killing so many different kinds of demons. And like you hear these accounts of the descriptions of the demons when you're reading Krishna, you hear the descriptions of the demons, and it's like just wow. And then Krishna, he's able to kill them. And he's just like in the form of just a 16-year-old boy. How does a 16-year-old boy kill like a demon that's like would go up to the roof? Could you imagine me killing a demon that goes up to that chandelier there? Or not chandelier, I guess, but anyway. There's a nice chandelier in Prabhupada's room. But yeah, so if one is not so much attracted to simple and sweet things, then there's, if you're more attracted to, say, like heroic or great things, then Krishna can fulfill that need. And because Krishna is unlimited. And there are unlimited living entities, ourselves, not just within this one universe, but like even beyond this universe and other universes. Yes, there are other universes. You can also hear about that from these books. But there's unlimited number of living entities, and with unlimited desires. Because we come from Krishna, we inherit qualities of Krishna, just as children inherit qualities of their parents. So we inherit some qualities of Krishna. So Krishna is unlimited, therefore we have like unlimited desires, of course. But we actually are limited. We don't necessarily have the facility to fulfill these desires. I'm so limited, I cannot see what's outside that door. So whereas Krishna, he's present within every atom and within everyone's heart. He knows what's going on everywhere. So, but I can only see what's going on in this room. How limited am I? That is just so limited. So, like, that's an example of how Krishna is unlimited and how we are limited. So we have unlimited desires, and that can be fulfilled by Krishna. He fulfills all desires, in ways that we could not even imagine or predict. So he's very wonderful like that. He's very caring like that. Actually, you could see this as just a manifestation of Krishna's caring nature, because Krishna is very, very kind. He's very, very caring, and he wants us to. God is a person. Krishna, he has a name. He has a personality, and just because we have personality, we have personalities. Because Krishna is the original source. So we are individuals because Krishna is an individual, because he's the supreme original individual, like that. So because he's an individual, he wants us to come back to him. He misses us. He doesn't want us to be here. He allows us to be here. We want to be here in this material world to fulfill the desires. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, okay. He knows it's not necessarily best for us. But he's still even then he's still kind. He allows us to come to this material world. But he doesn't. He knows it's not for our. He knows it's not for our benefit. He wants us to come back. Now how did I get to this point? Krishna wants us to come back. Coming back to Godhead. Ramai Prabhu, do you recall? We're individuals. Krishna is an individual. Yes. More, maybe? Okay, so I think it's also good if we're conscious of time, because God Arati will start in a short minute. I think I'll just leave that point, hopefully. So I apologize if I couldn't conclude it. So I think, just in conclusion, let's just go over the verse again. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. So it's important. So because with the goal of human life being spiritual realization, spiritual salvation, it's important to maintain these things, and therefore, excuse me. So therefore, it's elder members, the family members, they should try to give as much as they can and maintain this, to give as much as they can to younger generations, and they should try to get as much as they can from older generations, or just those who are experienced, who know about Krishna consciousness and know about spiritual life. who are not just like know about it but practice it also. Um, so like that. So I think that's just a good way to conclude. So yeah, spiritual life is important. Maintain it. Don't for those who are practicing it, make sure their spiritual knowledge is protected and maintained. Okay, Hare Krishna. If there are any questions, comments, or corrections, please offer them. Hmm? Should we get the mic? Yeah. We never get the mic in Gita class. I think it's good if we get the mic. Yeah. Okay. Good point. Okay. Yes.
What made you come to spiritual life?
What made me come to spiritual life? Um, it's a very good question. I guess having been born into it, it's kind of easy to just go along with it. But I think I realized by like practicing it under like my father's recommendation, like guidance and recommendation or whatnot, saying, "Oh, this is the process," and by practice, one gets realization, and then by that receives realization, like say by chanting Hare Krishna, you'll experience some bliss, and then you realize, and that's like different from any other kind of pleasure that you can experience. And then, but like just as an example, and then and by that you can realize, there's something to this, and then that can inspire one to, and I guess that inspired me to continue on and to try and pursue it further. So I guess that's one answer I could give, like that. I hope that satisfies. Thank you, Srinivas Prabhu. Anything else from anyone else? No? Okay, I think that's good. I think we'll finish there. Goa Arati will begin in 5 minutes. There'll be darshan till 7:30. Uh, until now, we could just have a bit of kirtan, maybe. That's good. Okay. Put everything on. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. And Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Okay, how do I get it fixed in this position? Oh, it's that, yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, yeah. Huh? I speak from realization. Doing very nicely. Okay. Alicia will leave, you'll follow. She plays Madonna very nicely. Nah, she's probably just going. Let's get the pause till I get it fixed.
What's the point of coming? Because the new coming now is
As long as you speak about Krishna. Exactly. Try to speak about Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, everyone can stand up now for the arati. We'll have kirtan. Oh, and if everyone can leave a gap down the middle so Sri Prabhupada can see the deities. Hare Bol, thank you very much. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ke, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ke, Shri Shri Gauratai Ke. Kiva Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Arati Gashobha. Kiva Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Arati Janavi Tatapane Jagamanaloka Kauti Chandra ki Vadana Ujvala.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Gaura, Hari Gaura, Hari Gaura, Nitai Gaura Hari Gaura. Gaura Premanande. So now we're going to have some prayers. One may bow down on the floor, or just put your hands together in a prayerful mood. And when I say ki, you say jai after I say personality's name. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Sri Sri Madhabhaya Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Ki. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki. Sri Vrindavan Dhama Ki. Sri Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So now you may remain seated on the floor. We'll sing her prayers now.
Vivo!
Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for coming to attending this evening's today's Bhaktivedanta Manor's evening program. The next darshan will be at 9 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. and now they will be serving Mahaprasadam in the reception just next door. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. What about evening program? Usually after announcing Mahaprasad next service, so you can just say that. Yeah. It's good for people to hear. And then you can also say thank you for attending. We're going to take some sure. And then straight to bed. Have you done this?